What you're about to listen to is a Bry-Fy production.
Comic book reviews.
Hey guys, welcome back to Bry-Fy Podcast. Unfortunately, your friendly neighborhood host is out sick this week. Not feeling very well, so he's asked me to take over the podcast. This is Liz. I am co-host of Nerdy Bitches Podcast, and we are a show where two geeky ladies podcast their way through pop culture. My co-host Heather and I focus on topics like movies and books and general pop culture type topics with the occasional guest from time to time. So, you guys may have heard us on a previous episode of Bry-Fy Podcast about 2 years ago, I think. And we are looking forward to teaming up with Bryan soon on our show. So I am not the comics expert. That's Bryan's expertise. And he is our go-to guy for everything comics. So you're in the right place for that when he's here. What I am an expert in is reading a ridiculous number of books every single year and noticing really silly things that keep coming up over and over and over again that make me want to put my hand through a wall or wrap them around someone's neck. So I thought that I could come on and give you, awesome Bry-Fy listeners, an intro into bad romance novels and what makes them bad. So strap in. I will actually give you guys a couple of comic book recommendations at the end of the show. Again, ones that I've really enjoyed, even though I'm not a huge comic reader all the time. So without further ado, I have collected 10 tropey things that happen in these bad romance novels that just keep coming back for more. Now, I should say this. I'm not a huge romance reader in general, or I wasn't until I became just a voracious reader in general, right? So in 2019, I read 175 books. And let's just face it, from a fiscal standpoint, when you read that many books, you can't afford to always pay retail for them. So I often look for books that are up for free or really cheap, like on BookBub or just whatever sale prices I can come up with. I also use the Libby app with my library so that I can download books for free. And the romance ones come up for free more often than most of the other genres that I like to read. So again, I just download them and I read them. And again, they're books written by great authors, and then there are terrible ones. Like I read one last year and I was so mad because the book was stupid. I'm like, seriously, I could just write a book on romance novels and how, just a terrible one just based on tropes. And I'm sure it would sell because I don't know, these people just making money, I guess. So anyway, again, I've compiled 10 things that we can look at in these romance novels that make them terrible and annoying. And, again, some authors are good with some of these tropes, but a lot of them not. So the one that I notice the most often is this theme of I'm not good enough for the hot guy or hot girl that has come across my path. So there's a lot of self-esteem issues and a lot of other stuff. And again, that's normal in life. We all feel like shit about ourselves from time to time. But some of these authors just take it to the extreme and to the extent that you just want to punch them in the throat. It's like, shut up. Like, they're here. They like you. Deal with it and move the fuck on. So that's one that kind of pops up in almost every book. Even the ones that are really well written will do this. But again, they keep it minimized, or they have enough enough characters coming in throughout the book saying, shut up. You're actually gorgeous, or you're, really smart, or you're a really caring person. Fine. So the second thing that pops up a lot in these books, much in life, is like mommy and daddy issues too. So we've got the girl who doesn't want to get serious with anybody because her dad left her mom, or the mom walked out when the boy was, young, or she died. There's a lot of dead moms in books and movies. I don't understand the need to kill off all these moms, but it's there. If you ever watch Disney movies, look around for a mom. You won't find very many. But anyway, so these issues always end up tripping these people up and giving them situations to where they are going to ruin a perfect relationship because they're just being stupid and they can't get rid of the issues from their past enough to move on with the situation of their current, present, or future. The next thing that comes up a lot is how you've got a small town, right? If you guys want more on this, you can listen to our episode from Christmas time about Hallmark Christmas movies. And if you've ever seen one of these, you know they've got about 8 actors, 6 plot points, and 735 movies made from that combination. So this is where there's a very small town. So small, you can just walk around the main street and to your house. I don't know why there's even parking spaces because it's so small. And everybody in this town is hot. I'm talking like made in a Canadian hot guy factory kind of hot. Just insane. And they're also insanely rich. It makes no sense to me how this many billionaires are living per capita in such a small town. But this is how all of these books go. You've got the hot people and the money. Sometimes they're a secret billionaire. Sometimes it's not a secret. There's a ridiculously large number of people in every family in these towns. So there's a minimum of 6 siblings, and it's always 5 brothers and 1 sister for whatever reason. And I know that the trope here is, oh, hey, if I write a book about this particular brother, I can write 5 more books about their siblings. And then the siblings that they marry, their spouses all have siblings, blah, blah. So you get these books. I read this one author, her name is Melissa Foster, and I swear to God, you need a flow chart to figure out where she's got so many books because every single one of her family or every single one of her people in her books has got 6 siblings, 5 or 6 siblings, and then they're all going to get their own book. And then it weaves into these other towns and other families. And it's just like, oh my God, I've just spent $10,000 on these books. Not really, but sort of. Fortunately, that one shows up in the library. So yay. But anyway, let's just face it. When you go to small towns, in rural places, in the middle of nowhere, hot billionaires aren't just walking down the street with a Christmas tree on their shoulder in a flannel, waiting for someone to stumble by in heels they can't control while covered with baking flour for no reason. So anyway, so the next thing on my list is the fake relationship. So somebody has got to be married or in a solid relationship or at least engaged in order for some other thing to happen. Usually a super hot billionaire has got to be married because his family sees him as a playboy who just runs around like crazy. But no, he needs to settle down and be married because great-great-grandpa Joe says he needs to. And it's in the contract and he can't get his trust fund fully until he finds someone to marry. Meanwhile, little Miss Karen has got no money. She's totally broke and she owes a shit ton of money on a condo she can't afford. So she has to get married to somebody who's really rich and use him for that. But there's usually some sort of a business agreement involved. They also fall in love at first sight, or let's say lust at first sight with each other, but the other thinks the other hates them. So it's all sorts of drama. And then by the end of your story, your fake relationship becomes a real one. Aww. Blech. So again, I've never been in a fake relationship in my life. I don't know who else has. So this is a weird trope and it comes up a lot. I would say probably 30% of the books that I read last year had some form of fake relationship happening. And it's really just, but this also leads a little bit into secret crushes that nobody knows about or everyone knows about except the people who are involved. So we have person A and person B. Person A has been in love with person B for 100 years. Maybe they're best friends. I don't know. Person B is also in love with person A, but it might ruin the friendship, so they've never done anything about it. Everyone in their family knows they're in love and they should be together because they'd be perfect. But for some reason, we just can't see the other person's side of things. Now, this probably happens more in real life, somewhat, I would say. But I think that, marginally intelligent people can generally tell when others are attracted to them and either decide whether it's worth acting on or not. So it gets a little annoying because you never find out until at least 3/4 of the way through the book that person actually likes you. And it's not just some sort of a friendship or I guess I'll like you. Or, we had sex 8 times, but that's just because we were naked and that's what you do. So Also, guys, if you're not familiar with this, romance novels are full of fucking sex. That's all they are. There's a range, there's a variety. There's also like a massive subgenre under the genre of romance novels. So you've got like historical fiction, sci-fi, even supernatural shit. Like there's just all sorts of different, and then you'll have the ones that are like, what we call chick lit is usually very sweet. And that book may culminate in either one big kiss at the end and like a rom-com kind of thing, or maybe just a bunch of little pecks, but it's very innocent. There's no action going, and there's a lot of words and things that are meant to allude to making out or whatever, but they're not hardcore. And then you've got, like, on the opposite end of that, you have this hardcore erotica stuff that is very descriptive and very right in your face. And so that can be, again, you've got like, they both can be off-putting in their own ways. And then you have that like kind of perfect balance in the middle where it's the right amount of whatever you're looking for. It's the right amount of people using the right words. Because one of the other things pops up here on my list is stupid names for sex and anatomy. So I don't want to hear about somebody's hard length or hot center. It's fucking weird. Just call it what it is and be done with it. Talk about fucking, talk about however it is. So it needs to be believable. It needs to be realistic, whatever it is. I'm so sorry, Bryan. You're probably cringing for letting me take over this shit right now. But anyway, whatever. You're not here, sucker. So anyways, yeah, but because again, depending on what types you read, but depending on how interested you are in the topic, it can be very interesting to very annoying. So if you're going to start reading romance novels and finding out what your chick is reading, this is a good place to figure that out. Yeah, so fun story. So growing up, my grandmother was a big reader of romance novels. And so we'd see her wandering around the house all the time. My grandmother's just sweet as punch until she wasn't. But, she'd be running, and all of these were the ones you used to see on the newsstand or by the checkout when you're kids. So we've got, Fabio on the cover, flowing hair, women in corsets and horseback, and I don't know, all this other bullshit. So those are going to be more of your historical romance. I don't read those because I can't get past the language. I don't need Pride and Prejudice and sex. I'm good. So I didn't read my first romance novel until I was probably in my mid-30s, and I read something, and I didn't realize what I was kind of reading. I was like, oh, there's a lot of sex in that book. Okay, that's interesting. And then it started to click into place that my grandmother was just wandering around with a house full of grandchildren reading porn. So, go grandma. I don't know. So anyway, fun little aside there. Come from a legacy of porn readers because I tend to read my romance novels while people are wondering about doing things as well. But that is the really nice thing about electronic books and audiobooks that you can use on an iPad. Nobody knows what you're reading. Is it Shakespeare? Is it porn? Nobody knows at the doctor's office. So just do you. It's fine. So the next one that I have on my list here is we've got the guy or girl, whoever it is, or guy and guy, I don't care. Read what you like. You have one person who is so sweet and so devoted. They're all in from the day one. And the other person is constantly running away, pushing them away, freaking out, coming back for no reason, and just generally acting like an asshole. Probably because they've got daddy issues or mommy issues. And they have been running from relationships and love all their lives. And now they've met a nice person, but that person can't possibly be nice. They've got to be an asshole. So I'm going to be an asshole first and make sure that they can't hurt me before I hurt them and ruin their lives. Again, this is probably something that happens. Sure, everybody's had a relationship that's kind of put them off towards future relationships. But I think the general rule is to just go with Wheaton's Law and don't be a dick. So, okay, we talked about stupid names for sex and anatomy because nobody's got time for hot, wet centers and hard lengths and other disgusting sounding things. Just say what you're going to say, right? Just say it. Oh, goodness. So then we have the secret child. There's a secret child. Partner A and B had a one-night stand years ago. The woman has since run off. Perhaps the man has run off. But they have not seen each other in years and years and years. The woman's had a kid, but didn't bother to tell him. Now they come back together and their chemistry is undeniable. But will they be torn apart by the fact that she has a child? Or, I don't know, maybe the fact that she had a child and didn't bother to tell him. So, these are things that come up far too often in romance novels. So anyway, what I would suggest, if you decide, dear listener, to take up romance novel reading, that you need to decide what you like. And it may take a couple of different types of books. Get some recommendations from your favorite nerdy bitch. I can give you some for sure. And just, glide on into that slowly and see how it works for you. Anyway, so that's my intro into bad romance novels. I will definitely say dive on in, see what you like, read it up. Maybe notice if your partner is reading these type of books. They may have some, I don't know, amorous feelings that come up with some of these. That can happen, I've been told. Yeah. So anyway, like I said, I did want to give you guys a couple of recommendations on comics, and I think Bryan may have mentioned some of these on the show before, but I found one that actually last year I was asked to moderate a panel for Comic Palooza here in Houston for Chelsea Kane, who is the author of the Man-Eaters comics and several New York Times best-selling novels. And so I got to dig into her comic book, and I love it. Oh, my gosh. So if you're not familiar with the concept of this book, basically when girls hit their puberty stage and they become a woman. When they get their period, they turn into a werepanther, and they go on this blood hunt and just rip people to shreds, which is just kind of what happens. So basically, the whole world is giving them these hormones to try to keep them from turning and whatever else. It's a great comic. I love it. I got to meet, like I said, Chelsea and also Leah Meternick, who's the graphic designer for the book. And they're so cool, y'all. I really had a good time with them. And learning about this book, and the cool thing about it is that, as a girl growing up, going into comic book stores, they're not usually, or a lot of them, especially growing up, they were not super girl friendly. And when you go in there as a girl, maybe you have an interest, maybe you're trying to get into it, but if the place isn't friendly, you're not going to find what you're looking for. And we also haven't had a ton of comics that are more centered towards girls and women. So this one is nice because the story revolves around a 12-year-old girl and her situation and what's going on. So it's a neat story. I actually gave a copy of it to my niece, who is also a 12-year-old girl. And I thought it would be really funny for her to share that with her little friends, and they can figure out how to turn into werepanthers, I guess, and destroy the world. So good on you, girls. So the next comic series that I love, and I know Bryan has read and probably talked about, is actually a Star Wars comic. I am a huge Star Wars nerd. And I've actually even written like a definitive article about how to read the new Star Wars canon books, because there's a ton of them. I started reading them when they first came out. When they first reset the canon, I started reading all of the books because, before we had so many books that were in the legend, or now they're legends. They were first the extended universe for Star Wars. And there's just so many. It's overwhelming. So I had started in those series with the Thrawn series. So Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn. So I read the Thrawn trilogy and then the Hand of Thrawn duology, and just love the storytelling, love Timothy Zahn and the way he's able to really, work these characters, and they're fantastic. And so when they announced in the new canon that Timothy Zahn was coming back and rewriting Thrawn into the universe, I lost my shit. So, of course, I ran out and read the book, loved it. Read the second book, loved it. Third book, loved it. They've come out probably just after we had done our book club on the first Thrawn book in the new canon, they did a comic of it. And it is awesome. If you're not into reading that much and you don't need all the detail stuff, but you love comics and you want to do the panel, but you want to get in on this story, this is a great place to do it. It's well written, it's well drawn, and it follows the book well enough so that you're not really missing any of the major action. So I highly, highly recommend both the Man-Eaters, if you're down for that, and also the Thrawn series. Totally fantastic. So if you are interested in learning more about our podcast and what we do, again, you can find us on social media. You can find us on Twitter at Nerdy Bitches Pod. You can find us on Facebook. Just type in Nerdy Bitches because they're all weird about the name. And then Instagram at Nerdy Bitches. You can find us on the web. We have a website and it has all of our book club listings and all of our guests and other places that we have been guests and interviews on at nerdybitches.com. Our most recent episodes, we have a 2-part series that just came out. This is our 2019 annual movie review. And we go, the first part we go January through June, and the second part we do the second half of the year. Right before that, we did a long episode on the Rise of Skywalker and how it fits into the rest of the universe. Totally fun. So we would love to have you guys come take a listen to us. I want to thank you, Bryan, for letting me take over your airwaves for the day and have a little chit chat about stuff that your listeners probably tuned out for a while ago. So anyways, hope you guys have a great day. I got to tell you, Bryan, I don't know how you do 20 to 30 minutes on your own. I really don't. You are a king, sir.